In John chapter 14 and verse 6, we read these words. Jesus said to him, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Extraordinary words of Jesus. I am the way. And before the name Christian was ever coined, people who were known to love and to follow Jesus were known as people of the way. Jesus' way, because he is the way. And if you were to look at this chapter as a whole, or even this section, then this is what you would see. From John chapter 13 and verse 31, right all the way through to the end of chapter 14, the theme is this: do not let your hearts be troubled. It's why so often Christians turn to these verses. But why were the disciples troubled? What was it that made them so anxious? Well, there are three really obvious reasons that as you read it through, you discover. The first is Jesus has told them that he is about to leave them. The second is that he has told them that they are going to deny him and flee from him. And the third, they've been given a task to fulfill that feels that bit overwhelming. But Jesus is speaking not just to his disciples, he's actually speaking to the basic need of the human heart. Hearts that are troubled because the one that it was made for is not there. He is missing. Augustine summed it up beautifully when he said, our hearts are restless until they find rest in you. Because our hearts are conscious that not is all right in the world, not is all right in here, because we've denied him. Romans chapter 3 and verse 23 says, for there is no distinction, for all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And it's not only that, there is that awareness of the purposelessness of life. And we have become aimless. The book of Ecclesiastes sums it up like this: someone who has known the best and the worst and yet says meaningless, meaningless, all is utterly meaningless. And here is so often the issue for people. It's not death that they're afraid of. Many people have already convinced themselves either of the nihilism of death or of a worked out theory that they put confidence in, a religious one maybe, a pagan one, or simply a mixed up one. Not that long ago, I spoke to a man who was facing his own terminal illness with absolutely no fear whatsoever. And I asked, where did that confidence come from? His reply, it was a book written by Arthur Conan Doyle on spiritualism. Now, if I was facing eternity, my death, I'm not sure I would want to place all my confidence in a crime writer. Because it's entirely possible to have strong faith, but on a weak bridge. It's not the confidence of your faith that matters, it is the object of your faith. Even the smallest faith in Jesus is enough. Because you're not saved by the amount of your faith, but by believing in him. Back to the point. It's often not death that people are afraid of. It's life. Why would people be afraid of life? Because on the one hand, hearts are troubled and there is this hole inside that what they have does not satisfy, and that purposelessness of it all. So on the one hand, the theme is don't let your hearts be troubled, and on the other, that there is peace. Jesus says in verse 27, peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. Not as the world gives do I give it to you. Let not your hearts be troubled. Neither let them be afraid. Is there a way to this kind of peace? In the temple, there was this great big curtain. It was a symbol of separation between us and God. And you could try all kinds of things to get through, but you never could. It was too thick. The barrier too great. You can try religion, being good, meditation. You can pray 5 times a day. But no matter how hard you try, you won't find a way through. No matter how commendable, no matter how worthy, no matter how much effort, it will always be in the way. This great big barrier. Yet listen to what happens the moment Jesus dies. Read this in Mark's Gospel at chapter 15 and verse 37. And Jesus uttered a loud cry and breathed his last, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood facing him saw that in this way he breathed his last, he said, truly, this man was the Son of God. And here is the Gospel's point. Jesus does what no one else can. He makes a way open. And this is why to try and say all ways to lead to God, that all religions do the same thing, is to make of the gospel claims for itself that it refuses to make. And then we discover that the gospel is offensive because it's exclusive, because there is no other way. But is he the truth? Can we really rely on him? Let me give you 3 things to think on in Jesus. The first is this: was Jesus truthful? Did he practice what he preached? He said, loved your enemies. And that's an astonishing claim. And yet what does he do on the cross? Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. Was he God's revealed truth? Well, who else has done what he has? He lived and acted in God's world with God's authority. Was he the promised truth? Well, think of how time and time again the Bible describes Jesus as fulfilling God's promise. Think even of the context of our verses, the Passover lamb pointing to someone else. Would God's promised rescue really come and die? Is he the way? Is he the truth? But is he also the life? What did he say to Lazarus, to Jairus' daughter? What did he say even to the thief on the cross? What did he say to those who have come, who had given up on life? Think of the woman at the well. Think of Zacchaeus. Think of everyone who had an encounter with Jesus, who, having come to Jesus, has discovered that here is life, and life to the full. Who did Mary meet in the garden? Peter at the lakeside. Whose wounds did Thomas put his hands into? Jesus is risen. The way, the truth, the life. Is he all these things? Is he the only way, the only truth, the only life? Do you see, it can't be one or other. It's an exclusive claim. It may be a hard thing to hear, but here is the thing that matters. The miracle is that there is any way. Trust God, says Jesus. Trust also in me. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. I am the way home.